Do you know about this incident? In 1997, a series of child murders occurred in Hyogo Prefecture, Japan. This incident, commonly known as the Sakakibara incident, sent profound shockwaves through Japanese society due to its exceptionally bizarre methods and the young age of the perpetrator. In particular, the grotesque nature of the crime, where a sixth-grade boy's head was severed and placed at the gate of a junior high school with a grotesque crime statement inserted into his mouth, horrified the public at the time, leading to unprecedented fear and confusion. The uniqueness of this incident culminates in the fact that the perpetrator was only a 14-year-old junior high school student. This fact significantly shook society's perception of juveniles at the time, leaving a deep scar on society. In this video, we will delve deeply into the full scope of this Sakakibara incident and uncover its terrifying entirety. The Sakakibara incident was a series of heinous crimes that occurred in Kobe City, Hyogo Prefecture, Japan, from February to May 1997. The acts were extremely grotesque and escalated in stages, instilling deep fear in society. First incident. The incident began around 4 p.m. on February 10, 1997, on a street in Kobe City. Two elementary school girls were assaulted with a hammer, and one of them was severely injured. The father of the injured girl, based on his daughter's testimony, informed the police that the perpetrator was wearing a blazer and carrying a school bag, raising the possibility that the crime was committed by a student. After this testimony, the police requested nearby junior high schools to show them student photos for identification, but at this point, the perpetrator could not be identified, and the investigation faced difficulties. Second incident. Approximately a month later, on March 16, 1997, the second incident occurred. An elementary school girl playing in a park in Kobe City was asked by the perpetrator, "Is there a place where I can wash my hands?" When the girl led him to a nearby school, the perpetrator said, "I want to thank you, please turn around," and then struck the girl, who had turned around, with an octagonal hammer before fleeing. The girl was later transported to a hospital by a discoverer but died of a cerebral contusion approximately 10 days later, on March 27. This incident also did not lead to an immediate identification of the perpetrator. Third incident. Then, the incident took its most shocking turn. On May 14, 1997, a sixth-grade boy living in Kobe City went missing. The boy left home in the early afternoon, saying he was going to his grandfather's house, and is believed to have encountered the perpetrator by chance. The perpetrator lured the boy he happened to see by saying, "There's a blue turtle," led him to a nearby hill, strangled him, and hid the body. Then, on May 25, the perpetrator revisited the murder scene, severed the hidden body's neck with a saw, and took only the head home. The next day, May 26, the police began a full-scale search for the missing boy. Then, in the early morning of May 27, the boy's head was discovered in front of the junior high school gate in the city, an event that shocked all of Japan. Two pieces of paper were attached to the head, containing a provocative message directed at the investigative authorities. "Now, let the game begin. My idiotic police force. Try to stop me. I find murder so enjoyable. I crave to see people die. To the filthy vegetables, the punishment of death. To the accumulated hatred, the judgment of bloodshed." In this statement, the perpetrator referred to himself as Sakakibara Sato, and thus, this series of incidents came to be known as the Sakakibara incident. This statement was also mailed to a local newspaper company, highlighting the grotesque nature of the incident and bringing terror and confusion to Japan at the time. The police swiftly proceeded with the investigation, and approximately 1 month after the incidents, on June 28, 1997, Boy A 14-year-old junior high school student, was arrested on suspicion of a total of 5 offenses, including murder and abandonment of a body. At the time, the Japanese media had repeatedly reported on a sturdy man in his 20s or 30s carrying a black plastic bag who was allegedly loitering near the junior high school in the early morning when the boy's head was discovered. The public had strongly believed the perpetrator was an adult male. Therefore, the fact that the arrested individual was a mere 14-year-old boy sent shockwaves throughout Japanese society. The reality that such a heinous and grotesque crime was committed by a juvenile, who society was supposed to protect, greatly shook the perception of juveniles at the time and became a turning point that drastically changed the public's understanding of juvenile crime. Looking at the timeline of the series of crimes, it's evident that it escalated from an initial hammer assault to murder, and finally to the grotesque acts of head severance and sending crime statements. This suggests that it was not merely impulsive behavior, but rather a process where the perpetrator's inner desires gradually inflated, seeking stronger stimulation and a greater impact on society. Especially the names Sakakibara Sato and the existence of the crime statements clearly demonstrate that the perpetrator had a strong desire for self-display, wanting to assert his existence to society and attract attention. This escalation indicates that as his inner abnormality deepened, his methods of expression became more cruel and provocative, serving as a crucial foreshadowing for later psychological analyses. Furthermore, the media's initial reporting, focusing on a sturdy man in his 20s or 30s carrying a black plastic bag as the perpetrator, reflects the contemporary societal and investigative agencies' preconception that such brutal crimes are committed by adults, especially well-built men. The reality that a juvenile could commit such a heinous crime was largely outside the then-current perception of Japanese society, leading to a blind spot in the initial stages of the investigation. This discrepancy between initial expectations and reality presented a deeper socio-psychological problem. Society's image of juveniles was unable to cope with the diversity of real-world crime. So why did this perpetrator, Boy A, commit such heinous acts? From here, we will explore his deep psychology as a clue to the root of his abnormal behavior. Early childhood background. The roots of Boy A's abnormal behavior are believed to trace back to his early childhood. His home environment has been pointed out as problematic, with excessive control and physical abuse from his mother, and bullying of his younger brother. His mother held the belief of not allowing him to lose to other children, reportedly raising him strictly and dominantly, for example, making him learn martial arts if he wasn't assertive enough. There are also suggestions of a negative cycle where a lack of communication within the family and a desire for his parents' attention led him to withdraw and become violent at home. This ultimately resulted in his involuntary hospitalization in a mental institution, further fueling his desire for revenge. There is no doubt that such a family environment contributed to the immaturity of Boy A's parent-child relationship and fostered mental instability, specifically a schizoid temperament. Additionally, the inability to attend the death of his grandmother, who was his only ally, caused him great confusion and a significant psychological turning point. Escalation of grotesque behavior. Boy A showed abnormal behavior from his elementary school days. He exhibited a grotesque tendency, drawing numerous strange objects and pictures of flowing blood. From around the 6th grade, he began killing small animals like cats. On May 4, 1997, he reportedly decided to commit crimes as Sakakibara Sato after developing an interest in killing people through killing cats. Before the incidents, there were frequent reports in the area of women's underwear being stolen, then cut open with a knife and discarded. These were also incidents committed by Boy A. Such behaviors are interpreted as signs of sexual sadism. Furthermore, a shift in his target from stalking high school girls to assaulting elementary school girls with a hammer has been noted, indicating how his violent acts gradually escalated. What mental evaluation revealed? After his arrest, Boy A underwent a mental evaluation. The Kobe family court decided on a protective disposition, sending Boy A to a medical juvenile training school, and the content of the mental evaluation report, which served as the basis for this judgment, attracted significant attention. The media reported diagnoses such as conduct disorder, sexual disorder, and dissociative disorder, but the discrepancy between the severity of the incident and the mildness of the diagnoses sparked debate. Experts analyzed that Boy A showed tendencies of pervasive developmental disorder and Asperger's syndrome, as well as attachment disorder and sexual sadism. His motive for the crimes was said to be wanting to observe the process of death and an experiment to satisfy his own curiosity. Tendencies of narcissistic personality and self-displaying desire were also pointed out. He showed a hypersensitive aggression when his narcissism was hurt, and it was suggested that a psychological mechanism was at play where he tried to gain strength he lacked by acting like a delinquent from a weak position. While there is debate that these diagnoses do not fully explain the brutality of the incident or its incomprehensible motives, they were crucial information for understanding a part of the deeply rooted problems within him. The Sakakibara incident, due to its abnormality in the perpetrator's youth, caused profound turmoil throughout Japanese society, spreading various debates and waves of legal reform. Of particular note was a certain weekly magazine that, defying Article 61 of Japan's Juvenile Act, prohibiting the real name reporting of juvenile offenders, published the perpetrator's face photo. While this act was criticized for infringing upon the privacy protection principles of the Juvenile Act, the magazine's editorial department explained that they reported the real name and face photo after comprehensively considering the brutality of the incident, the magnitude of its impact on society, and the juvenile's background. Article 61 of the Juvenile Act prohibits real name reporting with the aim of fostering and rehabilitating juveniles. However, with this incident as a turning point, intense debates erupted over the public's right to know versus juvenile human rights and media ethics. Juvenile Act Amendment. The Sakakibara incident became a genuine turning point in the public's perception of juveniles. Public opinion rapidly escalated, calling for harsher penalties for juvenile crimes, which had previously been often viewed as subjects of protection due to their heinous nature. Furthermore, this incident also served as a catalyst for a sudden increase in social concern for the rights of crime victims and their families. As the victims' families' poignant voices reached society, the necessity of victim support became strongly recognized. In response to this rise in public opinion, movements to amend the Juvenile Act accelerated. In particular, the memoir June, written by one of the victims' fathers, had a significant impact on the amendment of the Juvenile Act. The words of solace contained in the memoir became a force that moved the system. As a result, in 2000, the Juvenile Act was amended, lowering the age at which criminal prosecution is possible in Japan to 14 years old or older. Moreover, in 2007, juveniles aged 16 or older who commit intentional murder were, in principle, to be referred to prosecutors, increasing the likelihood of them facing the same criminal trials as adults. The Sakakibara incident occupies a unique position in Japan's criminal history. This incident highlighted the complexity of juvenile crime, the deep psychology of perpetrators, and the fragility inherent in society. It wasn't merely an individual crime, it posed profound questions to the entire Japanese social system, including the Juvenile Act, media reporting, mental health care, and the nature of victim support. The reason why the impact of this incident remains undiminished decades later is that it exposed fundamental and unresolved tensions within Japanese society concerning justice, rehabilitation, and the nature of evil. This suggests that it was not merely a problem that could be solved by legal reform. It continues to confront us with fundamental challenges: what is rehabilitation, what is atonement, and how should society prevent recidivism, support victims, and preserve memory? Well, that's all for this video. We will continue to explore the truth behind various Japanese incidents and history, so please subscribe to the channel and give us a high rating. See you in the next video.